The following program is the first and original national network cable TV program on wealth building through real estate. You'll not see any movie stars, hundreds of testimonials, or pictures of Rolls Royces and yachts. You will see and learn from the financial genius who started it all, Mr. Real Estate, the father of equity participation. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Simon shows us how to get rich with real estate.
Thought I was going to have a little problem when I came in here. I got off the airplane over at the airport over there, and a little sky cap standing there, and I said, "Could you tell me where the Red Lion is at Jansen Beat?" He said, "Yes, I could." Then he turned around and walked off. Well, if you folks enjoyed listening this half as much as I enjoyed talking, we're going to have some fun here this evening. Now, just to make sure that you're in the right place, how many people, this is the first Amway meeting you've ever been to? Okay. There's three ways to make a lot of money in the real estate business, and one way is to buy real estate, okay? The second way is to write a book on it, and the third way is to give seminars, okay? Well, let me just show you what I did. I bought real estate first. That's the only thing that I really knew. I bought my first house, though, March the 9th, 1979. Now I own over 600 single-family homes in 12 states. I haven't seen 75% of the ones that I own. I don't need to see them. I don't have any that has $1 negative cash flow. All of them have a break-even and a positive cash flow. Now, what I want you to understand about that, folks, is I made that, and I did that in the toughest time we've ever had in history. And I did it with this system. It wasn't me. It's a system that I developed that I'm going to teach you tonight. Well, I have motels in 2 or 3 states. I have apartment buildings. I have land on lakes. I have 3 dwellings. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I have a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house there for me and my wife, Glenda. That's big enough for both of us. I have a house on the island down in Florida that I never have even been in, but I still own it. I have a property in Modesto, California that sits there vacant and pays me $900 a month just based on this system I'm going to teach you tonight. See, when you can do that, you could have properties all over the country if you don't have to make payments on them, couldn't you? Did you know that if you didn't have to make payments on your properties, that you wouldn't even have to have a job? Stop and think about that. See, well, I'm going to teach you some of this stuff this evening. I'm going to teach you the stuff that I've learned. Well, I made a lot of money in the real estate business. And the fact is, I became financially independent December the 13th, 1983. I could have quit and lived as comfortable as I wanted to live the rest of my life. I have all the new cars. I have the Mercedes. I have the Lincolns. I have the Cads. I have the 4-wheel drives. I have the boats and the motorhomes. I have all of that kind of stuff that you can get with money that you make. I don't want you to misunderstand me, folks. I never liked the real estate business, and I don't like it right now. But I like the money that it makes me. I used to have a big old sign right behind my desk. It says, "I hate renters." Well, the renters hated me, too. The fact is, I don't think I ever had one renter give me a notice that he's going to move. They'd move out in the middle of the night and take about half of the stuff that I owned with them when they did it. Well, see, some of the things that I did was wrong, and I don't want you to do that. But I made a lot of money buying real estate, and I still do. In fact is, it got a little bit critical sometimes. I'd come in the evening, and my wife would say, "Well, did we buy any property today?" And I'd say, "Yeah." Well, she said, "Well, give me that sales pitch one more time, how rich we're getting. You know, how come we don't get weekends off like other people?" She started taking her hormone shots every other day and calling her mother back in Abilene, Texas once a week. And her mother said, "I told you not to marry that flake." But I said, "I'm going to pull us out of this, if nothing else, just to spite your mother." And consequently, I have. But I made it in the real estate business. Well, when you go out and you make a lot of money in the real estate business, when the bulk of the people is failing, you got something. So that everybody says, "You ought to write a book on it, write a book on it." Well, I started, and when I started writing books, I started bringing all of this stuff that I had in my head out, and I ended up with 8 books. Well, I made a lot of money in the book business. How many people in this room have a job that you're working at that's going to be good enough to retire you totally financially independent off of your job? Okay? One in the whole room? See, there should be at least 5 or 10. So let's just say that there's 5 in the room, okay? Well, how many people in here have a savings account that's going to be good enough to retire them totally financially independent, that they won't have to depend on nothing? Well, we cut down a few there, didn't we? Okay, well, how about, do we have anybody in here that's going to inherit lots of money? Going to inherit lots of money? Just one man, watch everybody scoot over to him, see? See, what you just told me, folks, is if your job is not going to make it, and if your savings account's not going to make it, if you're not going to inherit any money, how are you going to make it? See, it's time that you thought about that. Well, I'm going to teach you how to do it. I promise you that. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'll tell you what I want to do is I want to talk about why we invest in real estate. Why, besides it being an ideal investment, number one is because it takes no money. It doesn't take one dime to go out here and buy a property. In fact, in your area, it's really something kind of strange. I picked up the paper today and I was looking through there, and there's 3 in there advertised for no down payment. Well, that was kind of different. You just don't see that every place. But it takes no money, but it does take some basic skills, and the less skill you got, the more money it takes. Well, it takes that for everything, doesn't it? Do you think, see, the less that you know, the more you're going to have to pay. It's just the way that it's always been. Back in the king and queen days, you think the king and queens had to work? No, they didn't have to work because they had the money. The people that didn't have the money had to work, and that's the way that it always is. So it might pay you to try to develop some of these little skills so that you don't have to work so hard, and that's the easiest part of all. See, that's one of the second reasons that we invest in real estate, because it only requires basic skills. If you know how to dial the phone, and if you can look in the yellow pages under real estate agents, you don't need to know much more than that in order to make a lot of money in the real estate business. Call up a real estate agent, let them go out and do the work. So it only takes basic information, very little skill. Another reason that we invest in real estate is because it's so safe. Even when we go out there and make mistakes. See, real estate hardly ever makes a mistake itself. The fact is, it doesn't even have the thought to do that. And another thing is, you don't hardly ever see anybody steal a piece of real estate. You know, they'll steal golds and diamonds and all this, but you never saw a house going down the road. You know, somebody's taking it off in their pocket. But one of the main reasons that we invest in real estate, folks, is because it's already proven itself. It doesn't need to prove it anymore. 80% of the millionaires in the United States of America has made it off of real estate. Not necessarily buying and selling real estate, but maybe bought real estate to protect their other income. If you own enough real estate, you could make $1 million a day profit and never have to pay one dime in taxes. So it's important. You know who has to pay the taxes? It's the people that can't afford it. It's the little girls working down here at McDonald's that makes $8,500 to $11,000 a year, and they pay a third of it out in taxes to support me. You think they like the system? No, they probably don't like the system, but I'm proud of it. I think it's great. But see, they could be like me if they wanted to, and most of them have a better education than I had and better chance. I started in the fall of 1980 with 41 houses in foreclosure, out of the 53 I own. So that's a little bit below sea level. But see, I made it anyhow. I made it in 3 years in the worst time we've ever had, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So what we need to think about then is there's 2 basic ways that we invest in real estate, and this is the way that you should do it. Whatever you have to do, folks, you should go out there and get you a property to live in that you have an ownership interest in. Because you've seen them in the paper, 97% of the working couples can't even afford an average price house. Well, see, if that's when times are pretty good, what's going to happen when they continue to go up? Is real estate going up or down? Goes up every day. See, not all real estate, but the bulk of it does. All interest goes up. So it doesn't make any difference. We could wait and wait and wait. Now, here's a problem that some renters have had. And I want you to understand the reason that I know this is because I was a renter before. How many people in this room have a house payment of less than $300 a month? Let me see your hands. See, a bunch of them. See, probably about 25% of the people in this room. But let me tell you a story about that. When they bought that house and their payments was $300 a month, you could have rented that property for $200 a month. But the reason that they bought and the reason that these people didn't bought, they wanted to own a house. They wanted the security of it or wanted the deductions or whatever. These people that didn't buy say, well, gosh, I can't afford a $300 a month payment, so I'm just going to continue to rent. Well, that's one trap that you got caught in and you probably hadn't been able to get out of. See, you got to do something. Here's what happens. See, on your monthly payments, they generally stay about the same. You're going to have an increase in property taxes. You're going to have insurance go up, but it generally doesn't go up very much. That property might be now $350 a month. In the same period of time, the rent's gone up to maybe $500 a month. See, it crosses over, and it crosses over pretty quick. So you might have to suffer a little bit at first, and you have to understand that because it's critically important that you do. the first thing you want to do is get some kind of ownership in a house out there, even if you have to suffer a little bit. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught in the trap and you never will get out of it, and that's too bad. Here we are in the richest part of the richest country that ever has been conceived, and 95% of the people are broke. You know why they're broke? Is because it's easy to be broke. It ain't easy to make money. You have to do some effort, okay? Now, another mistake that people make, and 50% of the people in this room that own real estate right now, is went out and bought a house and hadn't bought nothing else. They just bought one and stopped. Well, can you go out and buy a house and not buy any more and get rich off of it? No, you can't, because, see, it's set up against you. Now, let me just give you an example of that. Let's say that you went out and bought a $50,000 property and you got a 30-year loan. It don't make any difference how you bought it, but you got a 30-year loan. If you just lived in it and made the monthly payments for 30 years, how much would you owe on that property at the end of 30 years? Nothing. See, you'd have paid it off. Did everybody understand that? If you had a 30-year loan and you paid your payments for 30 years, and it's all paid off. It's free and clear. Well, in your area, how much would you think that a $50,000 house is going to be worth 30 years from now? Give me some feedback here. 180,000, 200,000. The government says it'd be worth over $550,000. I think that's a little steep. I think 180,000 might be even a little steep. Do you think that $150,000 might be a fair price that everybody could agree on? So I'm not expanding it to make it look bad. See, it doesn't make any difference because you're going to give me the answers. What I want to do tonight is I want to set it up, and you're going to tell me. Paul Simon's not going to get up here and tell you nothing. I'm going to teach you some things, but you're going to tell me if they're true or not. Let's say that you own this property, and now it's the end of 30 years, it's free and clear, and you decide to sell it. So you sell it for all cash. Now you have $150,000 in cold, hard cash. Folks, 30 years from now, how much is $150,000 in cash going to be worth? 50,000, 40,000, 30,000. See, probably less than what it is right now. Okay? But the whole thing, you probably had to give $250,000 for it. See, so you can't just go out there and buy one and stop. You just can't win the race by going and getting one and stopping. You've got to continue on. So that's what we want to teach you to do. We want to teach you the second step. We want to teach you the second step. Now, it doesn't make any difference if you buy a mobile home or a mobile home park. It don't make any difference if you buy a duplex or an 87-unit apartment building. It don't make any difference if you buy a commercial building out here or a single-family house. You can't just buy them and leave them set. So what you've got to do is you've got to buy them and rent them out. Because if you let them set, you go broke. Okay? So what we're looking for is some that we can rent. Well, let's say that we take a single-family house. Now, I specialize in single-family house for lots of reasons. Because the demand for them is higher, because they're easier to finance, there's more of them, easier to find, just all kinds of good reasons. But let's say that we saw this one was working pretty good, and we decided to get us one to rent. So we go out here and we buy a $50,000 property, and it's going to be a rental, and we get a 30-year loan on it. Now, let me ask you this. If you buy this property as a rental, in 30 years, how many renters do you think you're going to have in that property? About 30. See, maybe 60, you know, if you got them like I used to get them. But the whole thing is you're going to have more than one. You're going to have more than one personality that you've got to deal with. You've got to face that in advance before you ever get started. Well, if you can't live with that, then that's probably not the right thing for you to do. Well, by the end of this 30 years, you're not only going to have 30 renters, you're probably going to have 22 coats of paint, you're going to have 17 different stoves and refrigerators in there because they have a tendency to take them sometime when they leave. But still, folks, see, real estate is just like your mother. If you'll just stay with it long enough, it'll forgive you and support you in the end. Now, and this is the way that these little houses work. Let's say that you bought this property, and let's say that you even started off bad, because it's hard right now to go out and buy a property and rent it out for enough to make the payment, isn't it? So let's say that we got one for $500 our payments, but we could only rent it for $400, so that's $100 a month negative cash flow. Well, you know how many in this room could handle $100 a month negative cash flow. If you had all your properties with a negative cash flow, see, you could eventually probably go broke. It just doesn't work. And now, there's people that can sell you this program of having negative cash flow and how valuable it is, but those people don't have no negative cash flow. Let's say then, at the end of 30 years, we suffered through this 30 years, how much would we owe on that real estate? Nothing. It would be paid off, wouldn't it? See, the renters paid it off for it. Well, if it's worth $150,000, it's free and clear. Well, at the end of 30 years, if you just took this example, what do you think that your rent would be 30 years from now on this property? $1,200. I think you're pretty close to right. $2,500. I think that's a little steep. Let's just make it $1,000. Is $1,000 fair enough? Do you think that 30 years from now that a rent might go up 2.5 times? In the last 7 years, it's gone up 2.5 times. But let's just say that it did. So now we have $1,000 a month income coming to us. Well, we don't have a mortgage payment to make, but we might have some insurance payments to make, and we might have some property taxes to pay. But what happens to the rest of that money that we receive in rent each month? You bet it goes into Hip National Bank. And it's going to go in there when you're going to need it the worst, folks, and I'm going to prove it to you with everybody here. How many people in this room believe that 30 years from now that we're going to have Social Security? Let's see your hands. See, I believe that we will. But you know, there isn't a lot of confidence in that system, is there? But you know what you told me already just since we've been together this short period? You told me that your job's not going to make it. You told me that your savings account's not going to make it, that you're not going to inherit any money, and there ain't going to be no Social Security. What are you going to do? What are you going to do just to eat? Well, 60 Minutes said you'll be eating out of garbage cans. That'll be the best business to be in, is owning your own garbage can. See, that people will be fighting over it. But what we're talking about, folks, is we stayed through it, and we stayed through it thick and thin, and pretty soon it paid itself off, and now we have an income each month to supplement what we might not be going to get. And, folks, we only bought one house in 30 years. See, that's pretty easy to do. How many of you would go out and buy some real estate if I could teach you to buy it for nothing down and no payments? Okay, well, I'm going to show you that, see? But see, if I do nothing else for you but just show you how to get one, then I might have saved you. I might have saved you. But if convince somebody to maybe go out there and get about 10 of those things, you might be traveling around the country in fine style while your friends are eating out of the garbage can, see? But you have to understand, a system that's losing $12,000 a minute can't last very long, you know? But again, did this turn out okay for us? You know, we suffered through it, but did it turn out okay for us? Is that a pretty good deal? No, it isn't a good deal. And the problem with it, folks, is this right here. It takes a different kind of personality to have rental properties. Now, I'm going to show you some things here that's inherent with rental real estate. Now, we're just going to kind of cover these one at a time. It's problems that you have with rentals, and it's problems that you can't hardly get rid of. It's just a normal thing. Let's just talk about negative cash flow. See, it started back just a few years back. You could buy a house for $300 a month and rent it out for $300 a month, and you had the real estate pay for itself, and that was a pretty easy deal. Up until 1980. 1980 is the year that got us. The first part of 1980, you could go out and buy a piece of real estate. The payment was $300 and rent it out for $300, but the interest was only 8.5% on real estate. Do you know how much the interest was in the fall of 1980, December 1980? 21.5%. See, that house, without going up $1 in value, all of a sudden cost $450 a month instead of $300 like it did the first of the year. And the maximum that we could rent it for is about $350 a month. So we had $100 a month negative cash flow. Well, that house right here, a little $60,000 house right here in your area, in any area, would run you about $750 a month, and you could probably rent it for about $450 a month. So you got about $300 a month negative cash flow. The question I want to ask you right now is this happening in your area? Is it getting any better? Is it getting any easier to go out there and buy properties and rent them out for enough to make the payments? No, it's getting almost impossible, isn't it? See, but let's say that you went out there some way and learned a technique that you didn't have any negative cash flow. See, you think your problems are over? Not with rental real estate. Rental real estate is just like the dragon we learned about in the old days. They went in there and they chop off one head and two more meaner ones grow right in his place. And that's the way that rental real estate is. You think you got this problem cured, it'll get two more just as bad the next day. If you got rid of the negative cash flow, you still have the maintenance and repairs. And if you do your maintenance yourself, you're going to get ulcers and divorces and everything else. You're not going to like real estate if you have to do the maintenance yourself. If you have to do the repairs, if you hired it done, then you'd have a negative cash flow. Well, there is people out there that you know that can tear them up faster than a full-time person can fix them. And not only that, folks, they move around about every month, and if you ain't got them, you're going to get them. You can depend on that. Well, see, what I'm saying is you get rid of that. Let's say that you didn't have any maintenance and repairs. You got rid of that. You still have the management. You still have to run the ads in the papers, and if people call you and want to meet you out at the house, you go out there and sit, and nobody ever shows up. You have to paint it after they move out. You have to evict them if they don't pay the payments. But the one that always got me the worst was hauling off the garbage when the people left. Now, I had to get a four-wheel drive truck to haul off garbage out of some of these houses. Where did they have the garbage while they was living there? It didn't look that bad, see? But now that one always got me. But what if you got rid of management? Then you'd still have your bookkeeping, and if you don't keep accurate records, you're going to lose your shirt. If you get rid of bookkeeping, you still got the territorial restrictions. There's only so many in an area that you could get that's perfect, like these. And the rich people's already got them. So consequently, there isn't that many left for you. If you got rid of territorial restrictions, your down payment. The richest person in this room couldn't make down payments on all the real estate there is out there. If you had $100,000, if you make a $10,000 down payment on 10 houses and one comes up for 50%, you couldn't buy that property because you spent all your money for down payments. How many could you look at? How many that could you actually physically see and inspect and write offers on? How many counter offers? How many closings could you do? And you have to be there to do them. See, what I'm saying is the restrictions that you have. What if, just what if, there was a way that you could go out here tomorrow and you could buy real estate that not only didn't have a negative cash flow, but all of them has a break-even or a positive cash flow? That you don't have any maintenance and any repairs ever. You can paint your snake red and throw it on the garage sale and sell it for $5. No more painting, no more changing locks, no more vacancy factors, no more fixing windows, no more management, no more running ads in the papers, no more meeting people out at the houses and things like that. No more bookkeeping, none at all. You don't have to do it, and you don't have to give your wife the job. No more territorial restrictions. You could have 5 here and 5 in Atlanta, Georgia, and 5 in Modesto, California, and 10 in Orlando, Florida, wherever you wanted to have them. And you never even have to look at them. No down payments, no looking at real estate, no writing offers, no inspecting properties. If there was a way that you could go do these things that I just described, don't it look like that's the way that we should all be investing in real estate? Does that sound too good to be true? There is a system. There is a system. It's called equity participation, and I'm going to teach that to you right now. It's called equity participation. Now, the one that I'm going to teach you is the Simon system. There are some variations of it, but I'm finding that now more and more and more people are copying this one because it works. See, the experts are predicting that this is the way that real estate is going to be done. And you'll understand maybe when I get done here tonight why it has to be. It isn't a choice that we got. The choice is whether you learn it from me or not. But you might learn it from somebody that doesn't know about it as much. Well, see, we consist of two parties, an investor and a co-investor. Now, investor is somebody that has an ownership interest that doesn't live in the property. The co-investor is somebody that has an ownership interest that does live in the property. Did everybody understand that? Now, see, the co-investor could own 80%, and this guy owned 20, or this guy could own 95, and this guy owned 5. It has nothing to do with what percentage they own. But about 95, or maybe even a little higher than that, percentage of the people have it on a 50-50 basis, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about an investor that owns 50% in a house and doesn't live there, a co-investor that owns 50% in a house and does live there. Then I want to go through these things, and I'm going to show you why it affects everybody in this room and everybody in this city and everybody in this state. It affects everybody in the United States and Canada. But we're going to do a seminar in the next couple of months in Canada because it's the only thing that works in Canada. Okay? Well, let's talk about the people it owns now and just show you how it affects people right here in this room. Is there anybody in this room here tonight that has a property for sale? Has one for sale? Hold up your hands so I can kind of get an idea. A bunch of you have a property for sale. Now, I want you to listen closely then. If you have a property for sale, you can sell it in the next 5 to 7 days for 100% of what it's worth and still keep half ownership. Now, I'm going to repeat that because it sounds a little far-fetched, but I'm going to prove it to you. If you have a property for sale, you can sell it in the next 5 to 7 days for 100% of what it's worth and still keep half ownership. Now, it don't make any difference if it's 3 states away. It don't make any difference if it's tore up. It don't have anything to do with that. You can sell it in the next 5 to 7 days for 100% of what it's worth and still keep half ownership. Not only that, but all of the money that you receive is completely tax-free, not tax-deferred like you've always heard about, where if you buy another property equal to or better in the next 24 months, you don't have to pay any taxes. You could get your money out of here. Not only do you get it tax-free, but you get a deduction on it for doing it like this. Well, why would anybody do it any other way? The only reason that people would do it any other way is because they don't know this way. There is no reasonable explanation why they would do it different. And there is no excuses for it. Because there's people out there right now that's selling property and carrying paper back. You know, that's just not smart. And they're charging interest, which is all ordinary income. It's just not smart, but that's what has been taught. And those things are wrong, okay? Let's talk about somebody else that owns now. There's people that has properties out there with a negative cash flow. They don't have enough rent coming in each month to cover the monthly payments. So they have to take money out of their pocket each month and make the payments. Well, how rich could you get by taking money out of your pocket each month? Why would anybody have a negative cash flow if they could have a positive cash flow at the same property in the same length of time? And never have a vacancy factor, never have to unstop another sink or fix another window. Why would anybody do it any different? The only reason that they would is because they don't know this way. If you have a break-even cash flow, if you have one rented out for enough to make the payments, sure, that's okay, but it might not be making you any money. See, we can show you how it'll make you lots of money. You can, with a stroke of the pen, by signing your name, you can change it into a positive cash flow. Nothing complicated about it. Well, let's say that you have one that maybe be free and clear, or you don't owe very much on it, and you have it rented out for a lot. See, all of that rent is ordinary income. Let's say that you're getting $400 a month. That's $4,800 a year that adds to your job. So if you made $20,000 on your job, you have to add this $4,800 to it. You made $24,800 off of your job this year, and that puts you into even a higher tax bracket. When you're in the same length of time, you could have that same amount of $4,800 a month positive cash flow and get a deduction for it. You could take that deduction off of the $20,000 and show a $17,800 deduction. See, why would anybody do it any other way? The only reason that they would is because they didn't take the time to learn this. Now, folks, the thing about equity participation is you can't go down to the library and buy a book on it or read a book on it. You couldn't go down to the B. Dalton store and get a book on it. There isn't any for sale. I wrote the most that's ever been written about it, and I haven't published my equity sharing book yet. I'm the only one that teaches this system. I copyrighted it in 1980. See, you can't go to an attorney. He can't go back in the back and look it up in the law book. See, there isn't anything about it, okay, because it's kind of brand new. Well, let's talk about the second people as people that's buyers. There's potential buyers right here in this room. How many people in this room would go out and buy some real estate if they didn't have to mess with it? You betcha, see, and I would too. See, the messing with it is the part that, even if I'm making a profit off of it, I don't like it if I have to mess with it, okay? Well, with equity sharing, you don't have to do that. You don't even have to see it anymore. How many people in this room would be willing to pay, let's say, $5,000 cash down on a property if they never had to make another payment on it? Let me see your hands. About everybody in here that heard the question. Some people didn't. But what we're talking about is, let's say that you pay a $5,000 down payment on this property. Instead of renting it out, you forget about the renting program, and you put in an equity partner in there. You put in somebody and say, look, this thing is worth $60,000. I'm going to give you half the profit that it makes if you'll make these monthly payments. Remember a little bit earlier where we had our monthly payment was $500, but we could only rent it out for $400? So what we do, instead of renting that property to them, we ask them, say, hey, well, if you make the $500 a month payment, I'll give you half of this house. How many of you people in here that's renting right now would be willing to pay what you're paying now or a little bit more if you could own instead of rent? About everybody that rents. See, the people that's renting are not renting because they choose to rent. It's because they either can't qualify for a loan or can't make payments this big or don't have a big down payment or whatever. But see, we can save that. We can correct that problem. Because what we're going to do, instead of having a rental property, we're going to put us in a co-investor. Now, one of the requirements they have is they have to live in the property. It isn't a choice. Because, see, we want them watching our half while they're watching their half. And they couldn't watch their half without watching ours because we have an undivided one-half interest. Undivided. So consequently, nobody breaks into it and paints the walls and things like that. They have to do all the maintenance and repairs. They have to do them themselves. They don't call us if they get a diaper in the sink. They take it out themselves. If the window breaks, they fix it. If the lawn needs mowing, they mow it. When it needs painting, they paint it. They don't call me for nothing. And that, I kind of like that pretty good. They make the total monthly payments, whatever they are. And I like for them to make it directly to the lender so I don't even have to collect. I don't have to keep no books on it or anything. Once a year, that lender's going to print out a little card that's going to send to me or them and my bookkeeper of how much we paid in interest and property taxes and all of that kind of stuff, and I just call him and see if he got them. That's all that I do. I don't collect them and send them to him. But see, it's eliminated all of these problems that I have. Well, see, as simple as it sounds, we have to have some protection here. We have some protection built in for both people. We have to have some kind of agreement between these two people, and that's the heart of equity participation. We have to have what we call a co-tenancy agreement. I'm going to give you the outline of the Simon System co-tenancy agreement, and I'm going to give you that outline for lots of reasons. Number one is I have this one, but because there isn't anything in the United States, no document that's come close to winning as much as this thing has. I've had this thing since the fall of 1980. It took 3 brokers and a CPA and an attorney 45 days to put this thing together. It cost us lots and lots and lots of money. But the reason it cost us so much money the first time is because nobody had ever done it before. We had to research everything, but we wanted to make sure it didn't make any mistakes. Well, let me tell you how successful it's been. It's being used right now in all 50 states. Oregon is one of them. In all 50 states around the United States of America with thousands and thousands of transactions, and to this date, never one suit or litigation. Not one single problem has come up with it. Well, see, now that's pretty neat. When you stop to think about any kind of contract, just a difference in personalities. Well, let me show you why we haven't had the problem. See, because we don't have the problems with the people we got because we solve the problems before we ever get together. If we're going to have a problem, we want to know in advance. See, the parties involved. Now, see, these are the people that's going to be on the deed. If this lady and her husband like this property and they can afford to make the payments and I like them and believe that they can, then I'm going to put them on the deed today. They're on the deed today. They don't have to worry about going out there proving anything to me or maybe me changing my mind 6 months from now. They're on the deed today, and the IRS recognizes them as an owner now. So they start getting their deductions today, not at some future date. The ownership interest. Whatever we decide on. See, maybe they wanted to hold out for 60% ownership interest, and I only wanted to give them 40. Well, needless to say, then we probably couldn't get together, could we? If we don't get together, we eliminated our problem. See, we don't have a problem because whatever we sign this co-tenancy agreement and we agree to abide by, that's what we're going to abide by. Okay? Well, so we decided on 50-50. And so we're going to each abide by that for a certain period of time. They're going to go right on the title as tenants in common. The reason we use tenants in common is because it's the same in all 50 states. See, we don't have to change nothing or dream up no kind of new laws. In fact, this agreement is between me and them. It has nothing to do with the law. If I wanted to have in this agreement that I got to use their car every 90 days, if they didn't let me use their car, they lose their half of the house. It's just as simple as that, okay? The term of the agreement. See, I want them to stay in there for 5 years, but she says, look, my husband's not going to want to stay in here for 5 years and move. We want a minimum of a 10-year agreement. Well, if we could agree to that, then we do. If we can't agree to it, then they go someplace else, and I get somebody else that'll take the 5-year. You see what I'm saying? See, we don't have any problems because we correct them in advance, okay? Let's say that we made a 15-year agreement, but now 5 years from now they get transferred. What do we do then? See, all of this stuff had to be called for, and you'll see how we do it. The value of the property. We decided the value of the property today was worth $60,000, and we're going to split the profit that it makes. So let's say that this agreement was for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, we put the property up for sale, and it sells for $100,000. How much profit have we made? $40,000. So they get 20, and I get 20. Did everybody understand that? See, it's so simple. The thing is so simple. You say, well, why isn't everybody doing it? They will be doing it. It isn't a choice that we have. Okay, that's the value of the property. Investor's investment. We call it investor's contribution now. Because, see, sometimes an investor doesn't have an investment. What if we went out there and bought it for nothing down? And we put them in and let them make the monthly payment. See, we don't have an investment there. But what if we paid our $5,000 down like we did a little bit earlier? Wouldn't we want to get that $5,000 back before we split the profit when that property does sell? You betcha we would. What if we sold it to them and we still had some equity left in there? Instead of carrying paper, we just left our equity in there for half ownership in the property. Okay? Wouldn't we want to get that equity out before we split the profit that it makes? Sure. What if we went out and bought a foreclosure? We bought a $60,000 house, but we only paid $40,000 for it. We put them in for all over $60,000. That $20,000 is ours. We don't split that with them. They get half of all over $60,000, the profit that it makes. Okay? That's why we want to know what the value is today. That's the investor's contribution. The co-investor's requirements. The co-investor's requirements, what do they have to do to earn their part? That's all they have to do is to earn it. They have to live in it, maintain it, and make the monthly payment. And if they do that, they got no problems whatsoever, and neither do we. We don't have to go look at real estate all the time. What kind of insurance do we have, and who pays the insurance? There's lots of different insurances. There's insurance like homeowners policy. In case they destroy this property and move out, I want somebody to fix it up for free. And the homeowners insurance policy will do that for me. What if somebody comes over there and gets hurt? I want to have a liability policy on there that they're making the payments on so that it don't cost me nothing. I want to have an insurance policy in case the wind blows the shingles off or in case the hot water heater blows up. I don't want them calling for me for nothing. I don't want to see that property anymore. All I want to see is the readout, the once a year, of how much income tax that it saved me and how much money that it's making me each month. Well, now let me tell you this. If you took this outline and you go down to your attorney tomorrow, your attorney is going to charge you between $500 and $5,000 to drawing you up one that's never been used. Or for considerable less than that, you can get part of the workbook is the Simon System co-tenancy agreement that's been used in all 50 states without one suit or litigation for considerable less than $500. In fact, it's half of that. I want to show you where I got this idea and how my idea works. If I told you that I was going to take a house and just split it half in two, if you hadn't had as much information as you've got from me, see, it wouldn't register in your mind, and it probably wouldn't make any sense. So what I want to use is I want to use an example of something that you have heard of, and that's where I got the idea. I didn't make nothing up. It was already being done. What would you call a building out here that has the same foundation, the same roof, the same walls? Maybe it has a divider wall here, but has two halves that people could live in. Duplex. See, I wish I'd have known you a long time ago, see? I wouldn't have. Have we had duplexes around for a long, long time? Sure they do. Well, see, they treat duplexes different than they do houses. Did you know that? So I decided I wanted to do my houses like they do duplexes. And here's the deal. If you live in one side and rent the other side out, the law treats it different. They treat this one just like it's local here, and this just like it's down in Orlando, Florida. Not like they're hooked together with the same roof and the same foundation and the same walls, like they're completely different. Now, let me just give you an example of that. If you went out here and bought this duplex for $80,000 as an example, and let's say your payments are $800 a month, don't make any difference how much you give for it or how much the payment. It's just the principle I want you to understand. And if you rent this half out for $400, then how much would you have to come up with to make your payment? $400. See, but the difference is when you make a $400 a month payment, you own the whole thing. When they make a $400 payment, what do they get? They get a 5-day notice if they get behind on the rent, don't they? They get a guarantee. The guarantee, if they live there very long, will raise the rent. Just the way that it is, see? But now, let me show you how different they treat these two halves. The half that you live in, you get to deduct the interest and you get to deduct the property tax, which is the bulk of the payment. Probably about $390 of it would be interest and property. You get all that as a deduction. So say it's $4,000. You made $20,000, you get to take $4,000 off of it, you only made $16,000. See, if you had 3 or 4 of these things, it wouldn't take long till you didn't have to pay no taxes. But on this half over here, these people don't get any deduction, but you get to deduct the interest and the property tax and the insurance and the improvements and the maintenance and the repairs and your personal expenses if you had to go look at it. Now, let me just give you an example of that one right there. You're going to feel sorry for me about this, but nothing that I can do about it. Last year, we had a little seminar over in Hawaii. And while I was there, I bought some real estate, and my wife got worried about it in November, and we had to spend the whole month of December over there checking it out. And I'm getting worried about it again right now. We've got to spend the whole month of August over there checking it out again. But what I want you to understand is here we fly first class on the 747, live in the Hawaiian Hilton, and have crab legs delivered up to the room. And you know who pays for that trip? Uncle Sam. My partner pays for that trip. And you know who my partner is, folks? It's you people out there that don't own any real estate. I want you to know that we appreciate it. My wife said to tell you that she appreciates it too, you know. And she's going to try to keep on so that you don't run out of something to do. We're going to go over there all the time, see? Now, if you think that's crazy, see, because Uncle Sam is paying for my trip over there. If you think that's crazy, look at what else he's decided. He's decided that this half right here is going to last from now on. But this half over here is going to fall down in 18 years. So you have to take this one as depreciation. It isn't a choice you got. But it doesn't take much sense to look at that and say, look, if you get this, if you buy them to live in, and if you get this, if you buy them to rent out, and then you say to yourself, do you suppose the people making these laws might own some rental real estate? You bet you they do. You bet you they do. See, that everybody was worried about the new depreciation going from 15 years to they thought they was going to go for 25 and all. See, I knew that the people that's in the position of passing these laws are not going to do anything to take money out of their pocket, and no reason that they should. So, consequently, I wanted to do a single-family house like this. I went to my attorney and I said, look, I want to do houses like that. And he said, I don't think you can do it. I said, how come? He said, nobody's ever done it before. Wasn't that a good answer? You know, here, a man going 10 years of college to give me an answer like that? Well, consequently, he ain't my attorney no more. He's still my friend. But he's not my attorney. He is my partner with some of the ones I've got because he finally saw the light. But it was too late for him, see? And consequently, I want to just show you one more thing. What I did with the house. What I did with the house was just like this. Let's say that we own a property and it's worth $40,000. Now, we give $40,000 for it. It don't make any difference if we paid $20,000 down, it's worth $60,000. Or if we bought it for $40,000 for nothing down 10 years ago, or whatever. It don't make any difference. All I want you to do is understand how it works. So we owe $40,000 down here to the bank. So this $20,000 is our equity. Did you understand that? So we put an equity partner in here today, and we're going to split half of all over $60,000 that it makes. Now, we're going to split half of how much it goes up in value. So let's say if it goes up to $100,000, then consequently we got $20,000 apiece. Did everybody understand that? We're going to split half of how much we pay off on this mortgage to the bank. If he lives in there long enough to pay off $10,000, then he's got $5,000 and I've got $5,000. If he lives in there long enough to pay off this whole $40,000, then he's got $20,000 and I got $20,000. Did you understand that? See, we split half of how much it increases in value and half of how much we pay off on the mortgage. He gets the interest and the property tax on his half, okay? Even though he's making all the payments, I get the interest, the property tax, the insurance, the improvements, the repairs, even though I ain't making them, the maintenance, the expenses, and the depreciation on my half, just like it was a duplex. Nothing complicated about it, see, except that I don't have to see that real estate anymore. I don't have any more bookkeeping. I don't have any more negative cash flow. I don't have any more maintenance and repairs or management or territorial restrictions. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Let me show you, this it's almost like perpetual motion, this thing is. Now, let's say that we had a renter out there. Maybe it's our renter. But instead of them being a renter, we made them an equity partner so we don't have to see this real estate anymore. Do you think that these people are not going to tell anybody about it? You think they're going to keep it a big secret? Is that what people do when they get to buy out their own house? Just the opposite, isn't it? They go and tell everybody they possibly can. Mary's going to go to work Monday for the first time she ever did early in her whole life. She's going to stay right there at the door, and she's going to catch everybody as they walk in the door and say, we got us a house. You're going to get sick of hearing it. Joe comes in and he says, Mary, how could you guys afford a house? I make more than you and Jim put together. She said, well, we got us an equity partner deal with Mr. Simon over here. Well, would he get me one? Sure, he'll get anybody one. In fact, I'll get you one myself. You see what I'm saying? Well, now she goes to church Sunday and she tells the bishop, now everybody knows. See? Now, what I want you to understand is the natural phenomenon of this. Do you think that these people are not going to tell anybody? You see what I'm saying? Sure, they're going to tell people. And if you just think about this a minute, Amway made a fortune with this same idea. See, what we do is we understand that you don't know much about real estate, and you sure don't know much about equity participation, so we start with the basic concepts, the things that you need to know in order to be right or wrong about real estate. I don't want you to be a speculator anymore. I want you to be an investor. I don't want you to do anything anymore that doesn't make you lots of money. And if it does, give it to somebody you don't like and stay with the ones that does. We talk about something that nobody else does. In the first 15 minutes of it, we start talking about the potential problems. The potential problems, and when I'm talking about potential problems, I'm talking about something that might happen. What happens if we don't have no deductions in real estate? Well, Let me tell you why I do that. I'm the only one in the seminar business of all of my friends that give seminar that teaches potential problems. Anybody in here got a pilot's license? A pilot's license? Oh, a bunch of people got a pilot's license. Well, here's what happens. When you get your pilot's license, you go out there and you fly around for a little bit, and then your instructor will point that plane straight up until the engine dies. They call that a stall. Okay, then the front of it just drops off, and your heart just goes right up in your mouth, and your fingerprints get embedded into that steering wheel. Because, see, you know there ain't nobody ever left one up there without an engine. But the whole idea of it, the reason they put you into those stalls is so that you'll know what to do. If that engine, if you're flying along and the engine goes out, instead of you panicking and killing somebody, you'll know how to correct it. That's the reason I put you into stalls. I want you to know if something bad does happen that you ain't going to kill yourself or nobody else. I don't want you to get hurt. So that's the main reason. What type of properties does it work best with? It works best with the most that we got. The things that we got the most of is what the system works the best with. Why equity participation instead of full ownership? Let's see if this makes sense to you. See, some people say, well, why should I do it? You know, I'm getting all this rent and stuff. Let's stop and think about this. We know that it's hard to go out there and rent property out for enough to make the payments, but let's say that you did pretty good. You got them close. They're only $50 a month negative cash flow. Well, that don't hurt too bad, and with all the benefits you get, you can justify doing that. But if you had $50 per property, negative cash flow, how many of them could you handle? See, not very many. The richest person in this room couldn't handle very many. But what if you only had 50% ownership? What if you help somebody else out there and you have $50 a month positive cash flow on each property? How many could you handle? Thousands. Thousands. Absolutely thousands of them. You see what I'm talking about? $50 one way or the other does make a lot of difference. And folks, it's not the same in the real estate business. What you don't know will hurt you. It'll kill you dead. What you do know is going to make you tons and tons of money. See, the co-tenancy agreement, the same co-tenancy agreement that I give you the outline on, complete, the Simon system. See, I used to sell this co-tenancy agreement for $3,000 a piece. I've sold as many as 7 in one day, as many as 12 in 2 days. I had the cost down to 15 cents a piece. Selling for $3,000, that's a positive cash flow. I almost got out of the real estate business. But my attorney stopped me from selling them because I was practicing law. See, this very same co-tenancy agreement, only with the new revisions, is in this book. It's in this home study course, so that you can go out and do it, and you don't have to have the problems that I do. You don't have to lose the money that it costs me. It probably costs you thousands and thousands of dollars just to duplicate it. 20 different variations of equity participation, all kinds of things, all kinds of how your kids can go to college for free and your parents can live in their houses for free, and how that you can buy real estate out there and they'll, instead of carrying the paper, they're keeping ownership interest, all different kinds of things. Fact is, it says how to buy property without money or credit. See, it's not a nothing down seminar, but just to give you an idea of the kind of stuff that's in the class. You want to buy a house to live in, but boy, do you have problems. No money for the down payment, your credit's not too good, not many references, recently bankrupt, recently divorced, kids at home, new in the area, and in business for yourself. Does that strike anybody out there? Sure. See, I go ahead, then I'll teach you how to buy it for nothing down and no payments. If you can't make it then, you can't make it no more. How to start without risk. I think that's the most important part of the whole course. How to start without risk. Without risking $1 that you've saved. Without risking $1 that you've got in your CD out here. Without risking $1 you've got as equity in your house. See, you don't need to risk anything in order to make a lot of money in the real estate business. Ads for prospects. How you can make money off of this thing if that's all that you want to do. How to get the ads that actually gets the people to come in to be your co-investors. Trick lease option. Assuming non-assumable loans. How many people in here would quit their job if they had enough money coming in on the side? Would quit your job? You know what? You probably wouldn't. Because if you didn't have to work there, you wouldn't hate your job so bad. And if you didn't have to work there, your boss wouldn't treat you so bad. You probably read the story about the people that win these lotteries. See, they're always hunting for another job, except when they win the lottery, all of a sudden they keep the job they had. Go down there as a janitor. This one guy won $26 million. He janitors every night. Go down there and sweeps up after everybody else. Saying, I don't know if I would or not, but see, but the whole idea is you need to have the right. Isn't that true? You need to have the right to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And if you don't have that right, then you're a slave to somebody else. You've got to do it on your own. Sell your home for 100% of the value and still keep 50% ownership, and then all kinds of other things. Now, that's 15 hours. Did you know that I'll sell you this entire program for less than it cost me to type this book up? See, We was conditioned to do things, unfortunately. When we was growing up, see, our folks lied to us, not intentionally, but one thing they told us is don't take money from strangers. Have you heard that one? Don't take money. You got to take all the money from strangers that you can get. How good do you think this hotel would be doing if they only did business with people they knew? What I'm trying to tell you is that system don't work. It don't make any sense. And another thing that you probably heard is money's not going to make you happy. The only people that ever said that's broke people. Because the more money I make, the happier I get. And I find relatives now I didn't even know I had. They come in to visit me. You see what I'm saying, folks? Your whole life will change when you start making money, and there ain't nothing wrong with it. When you can go out there and make money and help people at the same time, there's nothing that you could do any better than that. See, when I started this thing, I didn't have no help, but you do. And you can do it a whole lot cheaper than I did. You can do it more, at attorney at $75 an hour for 45 days, you can figure that out. See, you can do that, and you can do it a lot quicker and a lot simpler. See, what you can do, you can't drive down the road and read this book, but you can drive down the road and listen to these tapes. If you're at a seminar and I pass something up that you don't understand, you can't back me back up. But you could play those tapes over and over again until you got it. Now, why are you going to do it now? Well, there's lots of reasons. See, putting it off is a language of the poor. Ed Beckley told me one time, he said, Paul, you know how to make $1 million the fastest way? I said, yeah, marry it. And he said, no. He said, there's a faster. He said, you watch what the poor people do, and then you don't do it. See, what the poor people do is they don't do nothing. They sit and kick back and hope that something's going to happen. Folks, if your job ain't going to make it, if your savings account ain't going to make it, if there ain't going to be no Social Security, you've got a hard road to hoe. You've got to do something. You've got to take the time to learn the specific knowledge that it takes to make money, and I can teach you that. But what I want you to understand is there's two things for certain. No matter, don't let anybody tell you any different. There's nothing sweeter than being rich. Nothing sweeter. Nothing sweeter than total financial independence. Getting to do the things that you want to when you want to do it. There's another thing you need to understand, and it's probably the most important thing of all. When you walk out that door tonight, the world don't care if you make it. They didn't care if you'd come in here tonight. It's up to you just like it's always been. If you don't take the time to do something for yourself, then you're just not going to make it. Folks, you don't have any time to wait. There's nothing that you can do that's more ethical and make you more money faster than equity participation, and you can't do it any cheaper. That's all I got to say. Thank you, folks, very much for coming.
You can learn how to get rich with real estate by using Paul Simon's complete home study course, and now at a special reduced price. If you have the desire to learn how to buy property with no money down and then turn it into a monthly income instantly, you can order everything you need right now. Here's the Simon System Home Study course, recorded live at one of his expensive 2-day seminars. It includes 15 hours of vital information on 12 cassette tapes, plus this workbook to follow along and take notes. This complete set sells regularly for $395, but during the special TV offer, it's yours for just $295 and comes with a complete unconditional money-back guarantee. If you're not totally satisfied, return it in 10 days for a refund. But that's not all. We'll also send you at no extra charge Paul Simon's book, An Offer You Can't Refuse. It contains an incredible collection of 70 purchase agreements that you can copy and successfully use to buy property with just about any kind of financing. Just select the contract you need, take it out of the loose leaf binder, and copy it. This book is a $50 value, and it's yours free with the Simon System Home Study course. And that's not all. We'll also send you at no charge Paul Simon's bestseller, How to Buy Real Estate Without Cash or Credit, complete with various ways of buying with no down payment or even good credit. This book sells for $20, and it's yours free as a special bonus. Call this toll-free number now, 1-800-228-3990 to place your order. That's 1-800-228-3990. Use your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express card, or we'll ship COD. Call now, 1-800-228-3990. Or you may order direct by sending check or money order for $295 to Paul Simon, P.O. Box 26884, Phoenix, Arizona 85068. That's Paul Simon, P.O. Box 26884, Phoenix, Arizona 85068. Here's what you get. The Paul Simon Home Study Course. 15 hours of vital information on 12 cassette tapes, and the Paul Simon Workbook. This workbook includes the famous co-tenancy agreement. If you hired a lawyer to draft this document from scratch, it could cost you thousands of dollars. This complete home study course sells normally for $395. Plus, you get Paul Simon's An Offer You Can't Refuse, 70 purchase agreements you can take out of a loose leaf binder and copy. The book normally sells for $50. And as a special bonus, you get this book by Paul Simon, How to Buy Real Estate Without Cash or Credit, a $20 value. A total of $465 worth of material not available from any bookstore, seminar, real estate agent, or attorney. All yours today for just $295, and it comes complete with a money-back guarantee. Why wait another day? Learn how to get rich with real estate. Order now. Call toll-free 1-800-228-3990. Use your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express, or we'll mail COD. That's 1-800-228-3990. Place your order now for a financially free tomorrow. That's 1-800-228-3990. Or send check or money order for $295 to Paul Simon, P.O. Box 2688.
A mortgage company that had a unique idea on something. Where I was paying like 18% interest at that time and 15% interest at the minimum, these people was loaning money out at like on an 18% loan, they'd loan it out at 12. But they'd keep a third ownership in the property. It was called a shared appreciation mortgage. And I thought, well, how slick? Well, the article went on and it said that they had the highest delinquency that they'd ever had. 7.5% of all their loans was delinquent, except this one little group, 29 million or whatever it was, of the shared appreciation loans. These people was making their payments exactly on time. Well, my people wasn't. So I said, well, heck, I got a natural thing. There was a man that was renting one of my houses. My monthly payments was $500 a month, and he was paying me $400 a month, and he was an instructor out at the college. He teaches economics. So naturally, I'd go to him. So I went out to him one day, and I said, Ron, I want you to explain something to me. You know I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm paying $500 a month, and you're only paying me $400 a month. So I'm losing $100 a month on this house just to keep you in the house. Tell me why that's smart. And he started telling me all of the reasons that it was smart, because I got all the appreciation, I got all the depreciation, I got all the benefits, I got to fix the coolers if they break and all this kind of stuff. I said, why don't you quit helping me out so much? Why don't you go help yourself? He said, Paul, I would if I could. I said, well, I think you can. Here's the deal that I'll make you. This little property here is worth about $50,000. Here's what I'll do. If you'll make the full $500 a month payment instead of $400, if you'll do all the maintenance and repairs, don't call me for nothing. Fact is, forget my phone number. And if you'll make those payments directly to the lender, I'll give you half of the profit in this house. I'll give you half of what this thing makes. Well, he said, well, fantastic. Anybody will do that. So I signed him up on my little agreement, and it went so slick with him, I just said, well, heck, I'll just try all of them. So I went out and I approached all of my renters on this thing. What do you think happened? You think they all went for it? No, they didn't all go for it. Only about 90% of them went for this deal. The 10% that didn't, I evicted them and put people in that would. But I want you to understand what happens, and not just that it happened, but when it happened. This is a gravy train in relation to when it was then. Interest got up to 23.5% there. I was the only one in the United States buying houses at that time. But it was just so slick. These people got an ownership interest in their house. So I put all of these things together, and they were just going so slick. So I went down to I told my partners about it. I had two partners at that time. And they said, well, Paul, that's pretty sick. I said, let's patent this thing. So, okay with me. I always wanted to patent. Well, we go into our local attorney there, and he said, well, this is not something that you can patent. And I said, it's not. And so we explained it to him, and he said, no, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. It looked like you got a can of worms here, and he sent us out of town. Ordinarily, they would refer you to an attorney anyhow, but he said, you're going to have so much problem with this, I don't want it in Modesto. So he sent us to Sacramento, California. We went up to Sacramento, California, and the guy says, well, you can't patent it, but you can copyright it. Well, we was willing to spend up to about $500. We said, how much is it going to cost? He said, $200. So put two attorneys on it. Let's get this thing done. About 3 days later, he called us, and he said, Mr. Simon, he said, can you get a hold of your partners? And I said, well, sure. He said, I think you got something that's going to make you rich. I said, really? See, ordinarily, the attorneys would say, I think you got something that's going to make us rich. He said, I want you guys to come in Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. We was there at 8 o'clock. They didn't even open up till 9. But he was kicked back in his recliner chair. When we finally got to him, he said, you know, you guys got a partnership that's not a partnership. He said, you got a joint venture, it's not a joint venture. He said, this is one of the slickest things I ever saw. He said, what you're going to need, though, you're going to need an agreement between you as the investor and the tenant, and it has to be legal. I said, well, can you draw one up? He said, yeah. It costs a little more than $200. I said, well, how much do you think it's going to cost? He said, about $3,000. And that was fair, you know, for the time that it took. Well, we said, well, go ahead and do it. Well, we had him work on it. Well, it took more than $3,000, and he's going to do it in a couple of weeks. It took 3 brokers, a CPA, and an attorney about 45 days to draw this thing up. And when we got it done, it was okay. It was good at that time. Since we've finessed it since then, it's been better. But after we got the thing done, we was really proud. We was really proud, and before we got the bill on it, about, I don't know, I'd say 5 to 7 days, I got a call from a man that had one of the largest real estate offices in Sacramento. He said, Mr. Simon, I understand that you're working equity participation pretty heavy. And I said, yeah. And he said, I understand that you have a co-tenancy agreement that works pretty good. And I said, yeah, we do. He says, what would you sell me one for? I'm from southeast Missouri, so I said, well, I started to give him a sales pitch. I said, well, we started this thing, we worked a long time, 3 brokers and an attorney. I started all this, going to charge us $3,000. Well, when I got to the $3,000, he said, would you sell us one for $3,000? I said, yeah, bring me a cashier's check. So he sent a man down, took a couple hours to get down to Modesto, brought me a cashier's check. I took the thing, run it through the copy machine, give him one. And he took off. And about, less than a week later, got another call from another man in Sacramento. He said, hey, Mr. Simon, I understand that you have a co-tenancy agreement that you sell for $3,000. I said, yeah, I do. Would you sell me one? Sure. He brought a check down, run it through the copy machine. I called up my partners. I said, we're in the wrong business. But I want to tell you, and I want to show you what I did and how I did it. I want to show you where I got the idea so that you'll understand, folks, there's something laying out there for you, and sometimes we don't understand it until we have a problem. Now, where I got the idea was from a duplex. From a duplex. See, for instance, if I was going to sit here and tell you folks that we was going to split a house half in 2, it probably wouldn't register with you. But a duplex is already existing. It has 2 halves that you can live in. Okay? Now, that's where I got the idea, because here's what happens. You take a duplex, if you live in one half, and if you rent the other half out, they treat it like it's not even hooked together. They treat it like this one's right here is in San Diego, California, and this one's in Orlando, Florida. Not hooked together at all. They treat them completely different. Now, I'll give you an example about this, and I'm going to work this out, and then I'm going to show you why I did it with the houses. Let's just say that you bought a duplex. Just to give you an example, you bought a duplex, and let's say that you give $80,000 for that duplex. Okay? Let's say that your monthly payments was $800 a month. Okay? It doesn't really make any difference how much you give for it or how much the monthly payments. It's just an explanation. Okay? So let's say that if your payments was $400 or $800 a month, let's say that you rented this half out for $400 a month, then how much would the payment be on your half? See, you would be making $400 a month payments, but the difference is you own the whole thing. See, Uncle Sam, I found out, gives you special benefits if you own real estate. Not if you live in real estate or pay rent and stuff, but if you own real estate, he gives you special benefits. Now, let me just give you an example of what he gives you. On this side over here, you get to deduct all of your interest, and you get to deduct all of your property tax. Okay, out of a $400 a month payment, how much of it do you think would be interest and property tax? About $390, almost all of it, not all of it, but let's just make it even so that we don't get real complicated here. Let's say that $4,000 a year was deductions. So you got $4,000 a year in deductions. Did everybody understand that?